Hi, it's Roberta Glass. Today, in court with NXIVM, a bombshell. Stay tuned. So I came to court for an emergency status hearing called by Judge Garifas. And what most people thought that this hearing was going to be about we thought it was going to be about Mark Garagos being Claire Bronfman's attorney. But it turned out quite different. So firstly, Mark Garagos, in case you haven't heard, has been named as an unknown conspirator in Michael Avenatti's Nike case, where Avenatti and possibly Garagos have been accused of extorting money from Nike. So just Claire Bronfman and Keith Raniere and their lawyers, which they've now added to, there was a new woman lawyer that I'd never seen before for Claire Bronfman there, and it was quite packed once again with lawyers for Claire Bronfman and Keith Raniere. So we learned very quickly that this would be the Curcio hearings for Keith Raniere and Claire Bronfman, and the defense objected and wanted to have the courtroom sealed. And we heard from many members of the press who were sitting in the audience. They stood up one by one and made their argument to the judge about why the courtroom shouldn't be sealed. The judge, Garifas, he denied the motion, and Claire Bronfman, with her lawyers, went up to the front of the courtroom. She was sworn in. She started answering questions, and one of the questions was, are you aware that Mark Garagos was named as an unknown conspirator? And her lawyer started to answer the question for her, and the judge got very annoyed. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, she's going to have to answer my questions. When she said that she found Garagos last week in a Google search, that's how Claire Bronfman answered the question last week, how she found Garagos. And I find out that she has a long history of knowing him. I want the truth, and I want it from her. And it got very heated. The judge called a sidebar. He put on this white noise, and we're watching as both lawyers from the defense and the prosecution huddle around the judge. And right as I'm watching, Claire Bronfman is kind of helped into a seat. So I'm watching very closely her, and I'm watching as Kathleen Cassidy is pouring some water from the long table that the prosecution sits at. And as the meeting finishes up, Claire Bronfman walks to the prosecution table. I'm watching as her knees buckle. She grabs onto the table for help and faints without falling on the ground. And right then and there, I knew that the paramedics were going to be called. And I think everyone in the courtroom knew that Claire Bronfman got some sort of bad news in that meeting. Now, I shared my theory with a couple of the fellow court goers. Vanessa Gregoriadis was sitting next to me. She wrote the New York Times magazine piece. She gave me a lot of information that she asked me not to share. However, I think I can share. I asked her how they found her for that piece, or did they request her to write that piece? And she said, oh no, they wanted a feminist. And we had a good laugh about that. But my theory was that perhaps the judge was revoking Claire Bronfman's bail. She had perjured herself by saying that she had found Garagos by a Google search, when it was clear that she had a long-standing relationship with him, and that was not true. So I thought that was the news that made her faint, but perhaps it is just her incredibly low-calorie diet. She looks very ill and very, very thin and in poor health. So it's hard to tell if that was theatrics to avoid possibly a bail revoking decision, if he was just threatening that, if it was even the thought of that caused the fainting, or if it was just the low-calorie diet. However, the paramedics came in with a gurney, and that was it for her hearing for the day. But it didn't end there. The drama did not end there. So when we got back on the record, the judge said, there is no privilege in who you retain as a lawyer. So when I ask who you retained as a lawyer, I expect an answer, especially when I find out that Ms. Bronfman retained not only Garagos, but Michael Avenatti last week and was in negotiations with the government last week concerning not some case, not some other case, but this case. And he went on, no one should get sick over this, but I control and run this case, and you're going to tell me who your lawyers are and how you retain them. And he got even more emphatic. He said that this woman hired lawyers for everyone, and she most likely started out with number one, meaning herself. He said she's the one in charge, and she's the one in charge of hiring everyone's lawyer. So that's what happened in court. We're going to come back tomorrow for a Curcio hearing for Claire Bronfman. Fridays is Keith Ranieri's hearing. Stay tuned to this channel for more NXIVM news. Shout out to Diane. Shout out to Stanley. Shout out to Vanessa Gregoriadis. It was great meeting all of you and hearing your thoughts on this case. And like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you back next time. Woo! That was a drama-filled hearing. Just one more thing. Stanley, who's been coming to these hearings for a long time, he said to me, "Oh, that was so much drama. I need my own paramedics after that."